In the afternoon, after procuring muslin from Fil du Mille, Jindo was primed to embark on the first piece of the new collection. Despite Gabrielle's persistent advocacy for him to tackle the fur coat first, featuring intricate origami pleats to accentuate the sleeves, Jindo found himself in need of a contemplative pause. Having been ensnared in analogous predicaments in the past, he was keenly aware that diving in headfirst without a solid plan could culminate in a rather sticky wicket. As he prepped the muslin for its transformation, the unmistakable echo of footsteps descending the staircase caught his attention. It wasn't Gabrielle's solitary footfall this time, but rather a companioned patter. She appeared navigating her way towards Jindo, a weird grin perched upon her lips.
Jindo, there's someone who knows you.
Still clutching the muslin, Jindo cast a glance at the director, his brow furrowing in curiosity. Obligingly, she sidestepped, unveiling the individual in her wake.
Te voilà.
You.
To Jindo's astonishment, the enigmatic visitor turned out to be Seiwa, a trusted ally from his little Parisian network. Swiftly registering Jindo's wide-eyed surprise, Seiwa moved to placate his stunned reaction.
Oppa, I'll explain later.
You'd best.
Seiwa, a cherished comrade from Jindo's days at the Fashion Institute in Paris, identified as possessing a different sexual orientation, a detail that never encumbered their friendship. A Malaysian with a rich heritage of British, Japanese and Chinese Korean ancestry, she wore her blended lineage with infectious pride. Their commonality, both raised by grandmothers, both offspring of designer mothers, and both alumni of English universities, created an almost immediate bond from their first encounter. Over time, their relationship evolved into a symbiosis of mischief and mutual support, their constant teasing belied by an undercurrent of genuine affection. Jindo shook his head, a convivial grin spreading across his face. He was visibly pleased to see his Ista, yet a trace of perceived betrayal lingered. It seemed Seiwa had been privy to Jindo's engagement with Gabrielle, but hadn't thought to apprise him of her impending visit. Surveying the scene, Gabrielle assessed the camaraderie between the pair. Intriguingly, Jindo seemed to command a rather dominant role in their relationship. While the two men exhibited warmth towards each other, Jindo's more masculine demeanor seemed to eclipse Seiwa's feminine traits. Recognizing the dynamics at play, Gabrielle issued an abrupt warning, her countenance adopting its customary stern and grumpy expression.
Don't play at work.
Jindo was momentarily disconcerted by Gabrielle's phrasing, but swiftly chalked it up to her rudimentary English proficiency, as was his wont. He thought it a touch unjust, considering he'd merely exchanged greetings with his sister, while Gabrielle had orchestrated the entire Guess Who spectacle of escorting Seiwa downstairs. Nonetheless, Jindo refrained from voicing his objections to the director's remark. Instead, he placated her with a dash of humorous sincerity.
Of course, madame.
His words were accompanied by an amiable smile, and he promptly returned to his muslin draping task. Satisfied, Gabrielle maintained her stern facade, ascending the staircase with Seiwa trailing behind her. Indeed, Seiwa's unexpected arrival was a welcome surprise for Jindo, not just because of their tight-knit bond, but also due to his conviction in the synergistic magic they could conjure together. Each adept in their unique disciplines, they respected and understood each other's strengths and shortcomings. Seiwa admired Jindo's craftsmanship in modellism, while Jindo held in high regard Seiwa's prowess in digital software, a skill sharpened by her graphic design background. Jindo would frequently rib Seiwa, jesting that her digital portfolio outshone the actual quality of her fashion creations. In response, Seiwa would endearingly dub Jindo a stubborn old mule, insisting that he had a knack for making exquisitely crafted garments appear dreadfully drab. Despite their jovial teasing, They recognized each other's expertise, continually learning from and supporting each other. Simultaneously, Jindo experienced a trace of discomfort around his Malaysian sibling, owing to a conversation they'd engaged in the previous week. When Jindo first secured his role with Gabrielle, he'd kept it under wraps. Many of his colleagues were still grappling with the job hunt, and he had no intention of appearing to be flaunting his success. However, he'd confided in Seiwa, aware that her focus was currently elsewhere. Seiwa was deeply invested in her personal projects. Her job applications were infrequent and exclusively aimed at coveted labels like Maison Margiela and Acne Studios. Now he worried that his prior descriptions may have excessively glorified Gabrielle's credentials. He had depicted Gabrielle as a distinguished alumna of the Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture, boasting an impressive modelling tenure at Langvang and experiences with prestigious fashion houses like Chanel and Hermes. Furthermore, he'd portrayed Gabrielle's fashion house as an imposing establishment nestled in the heart of Paris, claiming an entire building in the Upper Marais district. He'd underscored their dedication to in-house production, each garment meticulously crafted by skilled artisans. In addition, he'd lauded Gabrielle's nuanced comprehension of Asian culture. Reflecting on his words, Jindo realized he'd made Gabrielle and her fashion house appear remarkably prestigious. What particularly intrigued Seiwa, however, was his mention of Lady Gaga endorsing one of Gabrielle's pieces. Given Seiwa's deep admiration for the New York-born singer, Jindo knew this nugget of information would undoubtedly pique her interest. As expected, Seiwa humorously requested Jindo to nab the stylist's contact details for her. Nonetheless, she made it clear, albeit in her teasing manner, that she had no interest in working with unknown designers. In fact, their perspectives were fundamentally divergent. Jindo advocated for starting at the bottom, regardless of age, and mastering each phase gradually. In contrast, Seiwa, despite having a comparable level of experience as Jindo, argued that she simply couldn't afford the time to embark on such a path. If she were to work for someone else, the brand's reputation and the company's size would be paramount. Despite her apparent lack of interest in Gabrielle's house, it appeared that some of Jindo's tales had ignited a spark of curiosity in Seiwa.